Welcome, Hoboken. We're here in the upper gallery of the Hoboken Historical Museum up here at 13th Street. I'm here. This is Vera Sirota, and I'm here with the lovely Assemblywoman Annette Chaparro. She is an empath, public servant, and the people's flower. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Hoboken Talks. And the genius behind all of this is Rand Hoppy. So a big shout out to Rand. And we're so happy to have Annette join us. So thank you, Annette.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you. It's such an honor, especially on the cusp of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Exciting.
Yay!
Very exciting.
And we have a beautiful photograph that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes that's behind us. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Hoboken, for tuning in. So we are going to start at the very beginning. We're going to start with your childhood. You come from a family of 6 kids.
6. Could you believe that?
No. I
known.
think you got a lot of diplomacy skills from growing up like that. So tell us a little bit about your parents and your siblings, and we have some great photographs, Rand, that we can show of your family.
Yeah, so we were known as the Puerto Rican Brady Bunch. but perhaps we weren't as pleasant. There was a lot of fighting in that household. There's 6 of us. We fought for everything.
What's your birth order?
So I am in the middle.
Okay.
So yes, it's boy girl, boy girl, boy girl. So it's the 2 oldest, 2 in the middle, and the 2 youngest. There was a lot of laughter. It was a struggle. It definitely was a struggle. You have six kids and parents in a 3-bedroom apartment in the housing authority. You're on top of one bathroom.
Oh, okay? My God.
One bathroom. So there was a lot of fighting,
oh my goodness.
a lot of stealing each other's shirts, and but you know what? There are. It's a nice picture. It really is. It was really fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, these are your siblings.
That's them, yes. So we have in the back. It's from left to right. It's my youngest brother Richie, my older brother Eddie, my middle brother Louis, and then of course I'm in front of him. My oldest sister's in front of Eddie, Elizabeth, and my youngest sister Jeanette. So yeah.
You guys look like you get along here.
There, but like I said, there was a lot of fighting. My brother Eddie, he was like a father figure, so he made sure I wasn't hanging out too much, and gave me a curfew, which I did not like. But we're very close now, so I forgive him.
That's great.
But yeah, we as close as can be. There was a lot of laughter. There's music. And laughter with hard times. Those are the things, especially in a Latin household, Latinos, that's what we do. Yeah. We laugh, we just sing and dance, and music was always a healing, a way of healing and a way of just coming together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we also have a wonderful picture of your sisters and your dad.
Yeah.
Here.
My father in that picture, he was in a nursing home in Jersey City. He's now in Clifton, and he has dementia. It's tough. We all have different personalities, right? Like I said, 6 of us, so we all have different personalities on how to deal with a parent that has that. My youngest sister was very protective. My older sister lives in Florida, with my mother. My mother lives there too. But they're all very protective. So every time my father would not remember something, my youngest sister would be like, "Pop, don't you remember?" And try, we didn't know how to deal with it. We just didn't know how to deal with it. It's tough. It really is tough. My way of dealing with it, every time my father would slip a little, he would say, "Which one are you?"
Oh,
and I would always tell him, "Your favorite." My sister would get so mad and say, "Don't say that, don't say that."
You resemble him so much in the photo.
Yeah.
Glimmering.
Before dementia took in and kick in, and also diabetes, I was his sidekick. Because he lived in Hoboken. So it was just me and him in Hoboken. Yeah. The rest of them moved out. But so I was a sidekick, So.
Well, thank you for sharing these gorgeous pictures. We want to hear a little bit more about growing up in Southwest Hoboken.
Well,
Tell us about that. Like your neighborhood, you were very proud of your neighborhood. You're very proud of
I am.
Southwest Hoboken. We'd love
This,
to hear about growing up there.
the housing authority always gets like a bum rap. Like sometimes it's just the tough times. There is a lot of tough times there. There are so many good people with it trying to survive, right? And when I grew up, it was totally different. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was, of course, there were the fights. There were, there was drugs. There was all kinds of stuff. But it was we had a lot of dreams, and there was a lot of hope, and we took kind of like a responsibility for each other, right? If you did something wrong, there was one parent that was gonna snitch on you and tell your parent.
Like communal parenting.
It was it was, you went to each other's apartments. There was just a lot of stuff, but if you would have asked me how I felt when I was younger, I would have told you I wanted out, right? You want out, you dream big, you just, you don't know exactly where you're going to end up, but you know that you want better. And the people that live there deserve better, right? And I always say this, and I say this in Trenton all the time, just because you're poor does not mean you don't have any pride, or that because sometimes we do things and we don't think how a person actually feels. You have pride. And no one wants to be at a disadvantage, right? So, but growing up there, I've met lifetime friends. It's just that the picture, when I'm looking at the picture, brings back such memories. We all did that. We just hung out in the corner. We turned on the fire hydrant when it was hot. We didn't need a pool. We just did that.
Right.
It was just a lot of fun. I mean, the tracks in the back. I mean, we wanted an adventure. We just walked along the tracks. Never told our parents, of course, because we couldn't do that, but we did it anyway. It was just a really, I have such fond memories. And the holidays, you just had house parties. Like everybody would just go, the kids and the parents, they would all just go to these different house parties. So it was really,
Yeah,
I had
a sense of community,
Yeah.
sense of family.
hardship, absolutely. But as you get older, I realize this now, as you get older, you forget the hardship a little, you just, it makes you strong, but you don't, it's not a scar. It's more of a way of learning and how to survive and how to keep going. And it's important that people that are still there know that the community loves them and the community wants what's best for them. So
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And this photograph is from our collection, and it's actually from the block that you grew up on.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
So yeah,
to be able to
I
be
grew up in
sitting here.
Harrison, and it's just this. It's a little further out, but it's just such a. When I saw this picture, I was like, oh, this brings back so many memories.
The
Wow.
kids are they're definitely having a good time.
Oh, you just went outside. You just there was no video games. There was none of that. You just went
Everybody's
outside and
outside.
played. Bottle caps.
Right.
All kinds of stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that as a student, you attended Connors Elementary, Connors
Yes.
Koala, and Hoboken High School. What was your experience like as a student in Hoboken and in the public school district?
So I love school. I was absent a lot. I'm gonna say that. Like I said, there was a lot of struggles. There were a lot of hardships. So, but Connor School, I have these fond memories. I mean, teachers would just, and this is why teachers are special to me, because they help raise me. Right? That's really what it was. They help raise me. I had Mrs. Piranello. I remember her. She was like, I want to say first or second grade. She actually took me and another kid from the housing authority to her beach house.
Oh,
I'd never been to the beach, and she took me and this other kid to the beach house. And she just picked kids and just wanted to show us
Exposure,
something right outside of where you're at, which is so important, just so kids can see, yeah, I live here, but there's so much out there, and I can achieve so much, and I can experience so much. And I was at a young age. I remember just being in awe and very grateful for that.
what a great teacher.
I mean, I had Mr. O'Grady, I had Mr. Torso, and Mr. D'Onofrio. Mr. Sankey was my 8th grade teacher, and I have to tell you again, I was missing so many days in school. Part of it was, going hungry, right? You just don't get up in the morning, and whether you didn't have clothes to wear, whatever it was. He took me to the side, because back then, you had to report that, right? You had to report that. And I remember him taking me to the side, and he said, okay, here's the deal. No matter what time you roll out of bed, just show up, and I won't mark you out. And it was just like, I would say maybe a couple of weeks of that. And, you know, he just always made sure, like, if there was something I needed to eat, it was such a, from a caring place that, you know, back then I just looked at it as him being nice. As an adult, it makes me emotional.
Yeah, they're like your lifeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that is just, you know, I remember Mr. Palmieri in high school. I dropped out of high school. I got my GED, but I dropped out of high school, and I remember Mr. Palmieri was like the disciplinary guy, and he would say, "What are you gonna do? Go out and get pregnant?" I went, "No, that's not what I'm gonna do." That's exactly what I did. So it's like he was trying to, but at that point, I'm a teenager. You're a girl. You don't have clothes to wear, so you make decisions. And my mom, she did the best that she could. By that point, she was just single raising us, and you know, so. That's the decision. Decision was really, I have no clothes to wear. I'm not going to go to school. I'm a girl, you know. I didn't want to be embarrassed. The things that you think about now. And I love school. I always wanted to go to college. I always wanted to do that. That was my biggest regret. But I remember those teachers that really tried to hold on to you and tell you. But back in those days in high school, we had a lot of different classes too, which I think is something that we talk about in trend that we want to bring back. We had mechanic classes. We had wood shop. We had, you know, typing, all those things that really help kids prepare for, if they weren't going to college, get a job. Right. They were life skills. And I think that those things were important because it just you know, it balances you. But I really had such fun memories, really fun memories. Yeah.
Right. You had a lot of people who were looking out for you.
The school system, you know, was just, there was a lot of teachers that really dove into your life and really tried to talk to you, really pull you aside. You know, my siblings all had teachers that they were close to and have memories. And it was just, they're special, really special.
So great. Aww. Oh, Joan Dobbins says the stories about Hoboken can last weeks.
That's my partner that we go work out. So
this is giving you a shout out. So wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. And Rand, I think we actually have a picture of Assemblywoman Chaparro at Hoboken High School. I think you were speaking at the convocation. I think it's for graduation.
I don't know if that was graduation or if it was something else. I don't recall what it was, but I just, you know, they asked me to speak. It's just,
you're giving back to the community that gave so much.
It's so important, really is. And, you know, Superintendent Johnson, she's wonderful. And she just always, you know, we talk a lot. You know, I haven't talked to her lately, so I got to give her a call. But we talk often. She's very involved, and any opportunity, you know, she would want me to speak. And it's important because even though I never want to give the impression that, you know, I dropped out of school, that's a good look, right? Because I'm an assemblywoman. So you never want to give that. But I kind of want to just let young people know that anything is possible and you can achieve so much.
That's a great lesson.
So it's really that, because it's still something that, it's like a little scar, right? I think education is important, and I regret not going to college. So, but it is such an experience. But not everybody goes to college, and and it's not for everyone. And I don't want kids to feel that they feel like a failure because they don't succeed in college. They don't, you know, they just don't feel right in college. And there's so many things you can do, just so many things, and you can feel fulfilled. So
right. No, I think that's a very powerful example. Everyone deserves a life of dignity,
yes,
and a living wage.
Absolutely.
Which are some of the things that you've been fighting for in the assembly. So it has propelled you, you know, into your like progressive background and all the things that you do now. So it has informed you and made you a powerful leader. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So we'll talk a little bit about your work experience. It's so diverse. I was looking up and researching that you had worked for the Hoboken Planning Board, the Zoning Board, Hoboken Taxi and Livery Department, that you had experience with the Hoboken Rent Control Board, serving on it, and now you're a clerk 19 years. I'm a
clerk with the community development. I just want to make sure that people don't think I'm a city clerk, because that's Farina. But yes, I'm with the community development, but I started with constituent services, which is the main one. And I did environmental services too. So there's a lot of different departments that I've been with the city for 19 years. So my my best office is constituent services. That's where I started because that shaped me and molded me to know about city services, what different departments did. And it was important. It was very important. If I learned anything there, it's just that people want to be heard.
Yes,
And
validated.
and validated, correct. So if you listen, which helped me with this position and as an assemblywoman, if you listen to people, people want to be heard. You don't necessarily have to have the right answer, but people appreciate when you listen to them and you try.
Right.
And if you try to help them, you don't promise them anything, you follow up, they respect that. It's just when you know, if you're going to start saying, yeah, I'll look into it, and you kind of be dismissive and you don't follow up, it just, you never know. And I always try to remember this because I remember my many struggles. You have to always come from a place, no matter where you are, even if somebody appears in front of you like they have it together, that you don't know what someone's going through.
Everyone has struggles.
So you have to be kind, and you really have to try from there. Now, there's some people that really test you, but that's where your skills come in, and you have to kind of just take a step back and say, you don't know what they're going through, so try to just be helpful. Right. And I, you know, there's so many different departments at City Hall that I've worked for, and I think on everything that I've learned in every department was important. And you just have to have that open door policy and let people know that they're important, they matter, and we're going to try to resolve what it is that they need. And I really take pride in that because I want people to walk away saying, okay, maybe she didn't get me the right answer, but she pointed me to the right place. And I don't like sending people off. That's something with me. Like to this day, I'm the one that answers my email in the assembly. I don't have staff do that. Right. And sometimes I answer an email and someone will say, can you please tell the assemblywoman? I go, I am the assemblywoman. I'm telling you this is what I'm going to do. But they don't believe that. They think it's staff. Right. But it was for me because I want people to know that I am very much connected and invested.
Yeah, you're a listening ear.
It's important. It really is. And it really makes me feel good too. It really does make me feel good. So it's important. I think people just want to be heard no matter what the topic is. And if you can help them in any way, they appreciate that.
That's amazing. I actually think we have a photograph, Rand, of Assemblywoman. Yes!
Yes.
Is this a great picture?
It is a great picture. I want to say that was maybe Women's History Month,
I was like, yeah, girl power.
Or maybe Bala was giving me a raise. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. No, it's a great picture, and I love that the painting of the it's really nice. So these are some of the women that are in our building. And listen,
great colleagues.
It's important. Great colleagues is important for the community to know that there are really great people at City Hall that really want to help and try. So they should get to know their city employees.
That's awesome. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, you touched upon it already. Like, we're getting a sense of your sense of empathy and listening. And I'm wondering if you, especially for any young people who might be listening, what are some of your guiding principles? You know, and like, what are you hoping to do, like in terms of social change? You know, and what motivated you?
I think that just listening is so important. You have to pay attention and really tune into what people are really saying, what they're upset about. But I sometimes feel that, especially in this climate, people are afraid to say what they really feel because they're afraid of being attacked or, to really have a discussion. There's so much bickering going back and forth. And I think we all need to just take a deep breath. I think everybody needs a hug, first of all. But I think we all need to take a deep breath and really understand what's going on in the community, why people feel this way. Everyone is busy. I always say this, everyone is busy. Sometimes they don't pay attention to what's going on in their community. Everyone is busy until something happens that disrupts their quality of life. And then they're all ears and all eyes and they're upset. And people's quality of life is what's important. So I think that if you listen and be engaged consistently, because you could listen and we can have a session and we can talk about things and what is it that we're going to change. But if you don't follow through or you don't follow up and you don't continue to have these conversations, it gets lost. So it's important to listen and ask questions. You know, you can hear someone out, but if you're hearing people and listening to people, but you don't quite understand what really they're trying to say, you have to ask the questions. And sometimes I feel like I'm interviewing people, and I tell my staff that too. When someone needs help and they come to the office, we had a lot of people during COVID where it was unemployment was off the chain. Yeah, because we became the office, right? Because state offices were not doing their part. They tried, but it was, well, we don't have to revisit that. But so my office became that.
It was a great need, right?
It was a great need. It was overwhelming. We weren't prepared for that, and our office became like the satellite office. So my staff was really burnt out. But I said to them, if you just ask the right questions, because everybody needs help, and sometimes they're gonna yell at you, but just let them yell, let them calm down, and then ask them the questions. And if don't hang up the phone, because the last thing somebody wants, and this is something in City Hall or state, whatever, is that you ask the questions, you say you're going to help, but you just hang up the phone, say, okay, back to you. And then you got to keep calling them back. Oh, what about this? Did you do this? Hang up, call. It upsets them more. So you just got to ask all the questions, even if they don't share it, but you ask. But yes, it's, you just have to listen and be consistent. Well, we can make changes.
Absolutely. And I think we have a wonderful picture of you doing just that. Here's a wonderful picture. And there's a different one. But we can talk about this one too. This is how you got into the assembly. So we have Assemblyman Raj Mukherjee, we have Mayor Don Zimmer, and we have your colleague, Assemblywoman McKnight.
Yes.
So it's wonderful. Tell us how you got into the assembly.
So I was always behind the scene with politics, right? Like I've worked for Dave Roberts in his campaign. I did the behind the scenes. I was never involved as far as like running or campaigning. It was just I helped the headquarters or I did behind the scenes. I was just opening up. It was just the behind the scenes. I honestly hated politics. Growing up, it was just, Hudson County politics. Oh, it was just dirty. You just didn't want to get involved. I never wanted, and then when you grow up in the housing authority, you always feel like, oh, they don't care about us. They just come around when it's election time. It's still kind of the same story. You always hear that. But you try to change that. And it's important because that's how I grew up. So I wasn't really involved in elections unless somebody was going to give us some money, put a t-shirt on, and we're just going to send that card. And I feel like that was such a disservice. Love my mom, but she didn't know any better. So it was never a topic, like it's important to vote. It was never in my household. So it was never that. So I grew up just, knew of it, who's our mayor or who's a council person, but never really got really into it. I mean, I worked for private sector for a long time. So 19 years ago, 2004, when I came to work for the city of Hoboken, is when I got more involved. Didn't want to get involved as far as running. So when Mayor Zimmer at the time asked me to run, I remember saying, hell no, it's not happening. I hate politics, it ain't gonna happen. And I sent that message. And she wanted to meet. She was persistent. She laughed. She said, "Don't tell people I force you." But I always joke. I go, "You forced me." No. But really, she asked me 3 times. We had a conversation 3 times, and I have to tell you, I am so grateful to her. How she got me to do was she said to me, and I'll tell you this story because it's funny. She said to me, "Why don't you want to do it?" I go, what does an assembly person even do? I don't even know anything about this. I go, I don't want to get involved. I know how politics can get. And she goes, I didn't want to get involved either, but I just wanted a park.
Wow.
So she tried to convince me, but I wasn't buying it. I was just like, good for you, but I'm not getting involved. And she kept asking me, and I remember somebody else said to me, why wouldn't I do it, right? Like, why wouldn't you do it? And then they said, it's only for 2 years. That's how it started. They get you with it's for 2 years. And then I remember I did a rant, right? It wasn't to Zimmer, but it was to someone else that asked me. Actually, it was former Senator Bernie Kenny. I had a conversation with him because he thought it was like, wow, she picked you. Like, that's awesome. And I kept saying no. So he was like, why don't you just consider like her offer? And he sat me down. He says, why don't you want to do it? And I said, I just don't want to do this. It's going to get dirty. And then I said, okay, I'm going to tell you the truth. if I do it, I'm going to be so upset because they're going to come after me, they're going to talk about my family, and then I'm going to have to punch somebody in the throat, and then I'm going to get arrested, and it's going to be this. I just went rambling. I go, they're going to, I'm a single mom, I dropped out of high school. They're just going to get dirty with it. And I said, if you look in, domestic violence, the whole thing, like there's so many different things different angles. And he just looked at me, he goes, that's great. You're a person, a regular person. The people are gonna love you. I'm like, where are you? When I was feeling like my lowest, But it was something that I remember then speaking with her again, and then I was like, you know what? All right, fine. I'll do it for 2 years. It's 2 years.
Wow.
And
so
let me
we
tell you
didn't know
something.
Senator Bernard Kenny was so instrumental.
He was just curious why I wouldn't do it, but it was really Mayor Zimmer. And I have to tell you, I'm looking at that picture and I'm saying, I am so grateful to her because this is where, if you're insecure in life about anything, you don't know. And that's really what it was. If I have to be completely honest, I was just afraid and insecure about, will I do a good job? I didn't want to disappoint people. I didn't want to be such a failure. So I just kept saying no. And I'm so glad she pushed me and really said, you could do this. Look at me. I just wanted a park. And really, honestly, this is what I was meant to do.
Right.
Because I took my heartaches, my struggles, everything that I had in life that wasn't easy, that I thought, oh my God, I'll never survive. And I came through when I got to Trent. And I remember the first 2 years I got to Trent and I was just like, there's pictures of me with this frozen smile. Like this, because I just didn't want anybody to know that I was insecure. And I didn't want to open my mouth because who's an attorney? There are many attorneys, but there's also who's a doctor. There's so many different professions that I felt overwhelmed. And I said, what can I possibly do? Until somebody said something. And I was like, oh no, he did not just say that. And I said, I could do this. Yeah. I could do this. And the whole point was for me to be a voice, especially for the Latino community, for people of color, for people that struggle. And I realized also another thing was that you can go with, your hopes of changing things and in your community, but you're going into Trenton with many other legislators that are going to be voicing things for their community. So what's good for your community may not be good for other communities. And that's where you start negotiating and figuring out what can we do that it affects this, because it's the state as a whole. It's just not Hoboken, state as a whole. So there's many things that I've learned, but if it wasn't for her, when I complete this term, which is the first week in January of 2024, will be my last week, and it's 8 years.
That's amazing.
And it's really because of Zimmer.
Mayor Zimmer.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Zimmer, because this is something that I love doing. I met so many wonderful people in my district. I met so many wonderful people throughout the state, and a lot more to come.
And her faith, that means so much.
Yeah, whatever her reasoning was, right? I always, people could try to say, oh, whatever the reasoning was. I really don't care, because sometimes when opportunity knocks, open a door, really, let it in. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to fail. And I think that was a big lesson for me, because it's been a wonderful experience, and I would have lost that experience if I would have just said no and hunkered down because of my fear.
Right. I'm glad you took the leap.
Yes. So thank you,
Hoboken's benefit.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, a similar question. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your role models or mentors? You spoke about Senator Bernard Kenny, Mayor Zimmer, any influences, in your life?
There are so many. There's so many.
And your approach to, public service.
There really are so many people. There's a long list, right? Because it goes on. But if I really had to point out, I would point out 3 people, right? It's definitely Senator Brian Stack. I've learned everything that I've accomplished or strived for is really because of him. As a legislator, and I'm so glad that he was my senator, because it could have went a different way if it was somebody else. He has such a work ethic, and I know in politics, people you either love him, hate him, but that's really political thing. The people, that's why I don't listen to the noise, because the people love him, and there's a reason why people love him. He is relentless. I remember, it's funny, because it made me humble. And I'm a humble person anyway, but it made me humble. And I laughed so much to myself because I remember when he was going to introduce me, right? He was going to tell all his volunteers that, who I was, and I was going to run for assembly. And I was going to be on the team. And I go to Union City and I go to headquarters and I'm thinking, all right, he's going to let everybody know I'm going to be an assemblywoman. I get there. He introduces me. Everybody's clapping. It's they're getting ready to work, right? Because that's really what it's getting the message out in the street about everything. Everything he does in City Hall, it's going out there in the street. So he says, "This Assemblywoman, she's gonna be our Assemblywoman, Annette Chaparro from Hoboken." Blah 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 blah. And then he just starts going, "Okay, everybody, get ready!" And they're all lining up to do things. Who's going where? And I'm looking, and he just gives me a stick of paper, like, "Get to work."
Get to work. Roll up your sleeves.
Get to work. And I had the case of the giggles because I'm saying, "Oh, you're a jerk. You thought what he was going to give you, like, put you up here." But it made me laugh. And it just, I knew I was in the right place. And the people in Union City
He's got hustle. That sounds like.
He's got hustle. I remember telling him, "Oh my God, I need a B12 shot just to keep up with you." I don't know how he does it. I don't even know if he sleeps. But he really is about the community. He really is about people. He really tells you, like, he'll tell you, do this, constituent needs help with this. He'll tell his staff, and he follows up. Not only does he tell his staff, "Did you do it?" and they'll say yes because they did it, but he also calls the constituents and said, "Did they do it? Were you satisfied?" That is unique. I don't understand how he does it, but it's important to him. And you see, this is why he gets voted in over and over and over again, no matter what the political game is, no matter who don't like him, no matter how many times you want to poke holes at him. It doesn't matter. He takes care of his city. He takes care of his constituents, and he makes sure of that. Like, we go knocking door to door. When I help him we go knocking door to door. He wants people to write down the ones that slammed the door and said, "Stop coming here," or he doesn't do, and he will call them back.
Right, and follow up.
And that's unique. I mean, that's unheard of. So I really, he's a big mentor of mine. I've learned so much. I've stayed humble. Because of that, it's very important to stay humble. Him, Mikey Sherrill, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill is another one.
Amazing.
Funny story with her too was we go to Washington D.C. There's this train ride that we go there, and it was our first one, me and McKnight, and we didn't know we had to RSVP for these dinners. We just thought we'd show up, newbies. So we get there and we didn't RSVP, so we weren't allowed to go in once. So we were embarrassed. We didn't know what to do.
I'm so sorry
So
that
we
happened.
get to it's just fun. We laugh about it. We get to the back of this restaurant, and there's another private room, so we kind of just slide in there, because we didn't know what to do. And it was another group. It was actually Leroy Jones. He's yes, it was
okay, great.
it was his company, and they were there, and we oh no, we didn't RSVP, but nope, they just made room for us, me and McKnight,
that's wonderful.
and it was wonderful. But Mike Sherrill did the same thing. She was running for Congresswoman, and there's a picture. I wish I would gave you that picture. There's a picture of McKnight and me and her. And then we went the next year. We did the same thing. This time we did RSVP, and we did. And there's a picture of us. And that's where I got to know about her. It's oh my God, she's wonderful.
Got your own squad.
Yeah, she's really cool. She's really another one that's worked hard. Badass. Can I say badass? But she's a badass, and I really admire her. And she's very humble, very easy to approach. Going places. Love her. I love her. And I'm gonna pick someone that probably people don't know in the community, but in 2017 we had a former executive director for our speaker, Coughlin, Anthony Skip. We call him Skip Semino. He's not there no more. We have somebody else, Seth Hahn took that role, but Skip Semino, oh my God, he guided me behind the scenes. There's so much that's going on as a legislator, so many things that are going, and he really guided me, took the time. I never felt that he was too busy, which he was very busy, but he always guided me and always gave me a pep talk, which I loved, because he always gave me a pep talk. Oh, you're doing great. Don't cut yourself, don't sell yourself short, and just guided me in something. And And then I would, of course, have my rants, and I would then apologize. He goes, "Don't apologize. That's the fire. Keep it going." But another mentor, and a friend for life, and love him.
That's so valuable.
Yeah, it is. It is very
that he was looking out for you.
Yeah,
to get acclimated.
Right? Many. Yeah, it really is, and there's so many of us. So I'm sure he's getting so many calls. But for him to take that time, I went forever. And listen, we have tremendous staff in Trenton. They make us look good. Straight up, they just make us look good. So I am grateful for all of them.
That's wonderful. That's great. Thank you for sharing all that. That's incredible. I wanted to toot your horn a bit and talk about your numerous accolades and all the leadership roles that you have right now. I wanted to mention that you received the Spotlight Award and the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition Advocate Award, which is really great, so relevant to Hoboken in terms of safe streets.
Yes.
And that in terms of leadership roles right now, you're the Deputy Speaker Pro Tempore, you're the Chair of the Tourism, Gaming, and Arts Committee, you're the Vice Chair of the Law and Public Safety Committee, and member of the Budget Committee. And so these are lots of different hats that you're wearing, lots of different roles and different points of view in terms of your advocacy. So I was wondering if you could speak a bit about your proudest accomplishment. What's something that you're really, really just grateful for?
So there are many things, right? But the one that I for our award that I got was really about the driver's manual that I changed. I remember this. There's 5 pieces of legislation that I am most proud of because they came from constituents. Although the driver's manual, not so much. That really just came from myself because it just didn't make sense to me how we are investing so much on bike lanes and there just bike paths everywhere. We're investing so much money, but when you looked at the driver's manual, there's only like a mention on one page and a mention about bikes, and it didn't make any sense. And they gave me a hard time. The motor vehicles did not want to change their manual, right? And I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. We're gonna do this. I mean, they spoke against it because it was gonna be so difficult, and I was like, no way that our governor is going to put so much money into safe streets and, pedestrian safety and bike. And you're going to tell people that are getting their driver's license to read this manual and it's not mentioned enough.
Right. How
are you going to give someone a license and pass a test if you're not telling them how much you have to share the road? Right. And it has to be, so it was something that I don't care how much it costs. We spend enough money on different things. We have to change that. So I was very proud of that, and I'm glad that it was signed into law. And they did change it, and it is involved. But I couldn't believe that they thought it was mentioned enough, which it was like a little blur on one page and a blur on another, and it just didn't make any sense to me with all the infrastructure that we were changing and the money that was being invested. How you wouldn't think these are things that make you. That you'd say, how is that possible? There are a lot of things that we say that. But that's one. Zachary's Law is another one. That was an emotional one. And it was probably my first piece of legislation that I put in. And that was, unfortunately, Zachary Simmons that was killed on 6th and Willow, a hit and run. And it's an alert. It's an alert where, law enforcement, local, state, media, they just put out an alert when we have enough information to put it out there for the public to help. It was just, we went through that. His parents were just.
It's devastating.
It was devastating. It was very emotional, but it's one of those important pieces of legislation. They couldn't understand how they had information, but it wasn't put out there. Not to the fault of our, because thankfully, that person was caught and was tried and found and convicted, but it was just not something, that wasn't a system that was out there. So Zachary Law is one. The electric rates for vehicle. So, there's residential rates. I had a constituent that called me, actually right around here, called me to tell me that he did everything he's supposed to do with promoting also electric vehicle. He has a deeded space. He put in the charging station. That costs a lot of money.
Sure.
The bill was ridiculous. It was so high. How are you convincing people to get electric vehicles if they can't afford to charge? And they were charging a different rate. That's what it was. So didn't make sense again. So we fought for that and we changed it. So there is, it's affordable right now. It's electric, the residential rates. And, you know, I mean, that's something that's, again, common sense. But if you don't advocate for that and you don't, and again, these are constituents that are coming to me. It's not like I just woke up and say, hey, this makes sense. These are things, there's so much going on. There's so much you can miss. So it's really important, you know, so that was another piece. Also, serving alcohol in you know, theaters like, you know, a Mile Square Theater or Nimbus Theater.
Right.
That was another thing that they were, you know, people were against. Some of the lobbyists were saying that it wasn't a good thing because restaurants were going to suffer. And I'm like, New York don't suffer. It's, if anything, you know, people are not going to hang out at the theater. They just want to have a drink at the theater. They want to raise money. They're going to bring business to the surrounding places, right? So, because if you have a glass of wine at the theater, you're going to want to continue once that show's over to someplace else. So I'm glad for that because they were very grateful.
I think the theater community really thanks you for that.
Yeah, no, it just made sense. I mean, you know, Manhattan, they had, you know, the theater industry. That's what they do. They serve alcohol, and that's how they raise money. So for nonprofits, that's what we did. And the other one was, which was a real struggle, was the rabies notification. That was from also a constituent that had a really bad experience with a cat that he had. And you know how our pets are, like family, and this cat had to be put down. And he knew the cat had to be put down, but I think the cat scratched one of the workers there, so they have to get rabies, tested for rabies. So I don't think people know this, which is not something that's really pleasant to hear, but it's important that people know this. No one told them what it entails to get tested, especially for a pet you're going to put down anyway.
Okay.
They decapitate the head.
Oh.
Yes. So most people probably don't know that because when a pet, you know, he passes away, you cremate them and you get their ashes and everything. But unfortunately for this particular constituent, he wanted to see the cat one more time before they, you know, and they didn't. Oh, they had a towel. So it was just a horrible experience for this person. And all I was saying was, you have to tell them. And the vets, they don't want to traumatize people more. So I get it, totally get it. I don't want to know that, right? But some people do. So it's important that you educate them. And that's something and that's only if they're going to get rabies tested. But that's something you could just tell people early on before anything. So this way it's in their mind and hopefully that never happens again. So yeah. So those are the things because it came from the community. Right. It was emotional for them and it was important. And I'm glad that I was able to make those changes. I mean, there's others, but those are the top ones.
And every single one of those examples that you shared, you were actively listening to your constituents.
Yes.
And that helped to propel your agenda and getting it done.
And it's very, very hard, I have to say, because the rabies one was, it just died in one session. Then I had to start all over again. So each session you have to do it. So I had to literally hold the hand of this constituent. And although he's grateful, it was very challenging because I had to be the counselor, right? I had to be the person that's telling him, I know this stinks. And it did. You know, it was like, why is it taking so long? But, you know, that's what happened when you have 80 legislators and hundreds of bills are introduced. So it becomes, you know, only so many make it. So.
Well, one of my favorite of your accomplishments is the Reproductive Freedom Act, which I believe we have a picture around. I think it's a picture number 9. I wanted to share everyone. You're speaking in front of a crowd and you look really excited. Yes! Look at that picture!
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this and your commitment to reproductive justice.
So, you know, this is, again, it's one of those things that people are very passionate about it. And you have to respect people's, you know, across the board. You know, you have to respect people's, their rights, how they think, what they believe in. They may not agree with you. That's okay. And I'm a big believer of, I mean, they kind of, you know, they really try to steer on abortions. And, you know, it wasn't about just that. There was so much more. And I'm a big believer that, of choice, you know, women have a choice. That's their choice. whether you're for it or against it, that is your right. So I wouldn't be, I don't like judging anyone, and you don't know what people go through. So for the Latino community, it was very important for all women. This was in Montclair. It was just very powerful for us, especially Latino communities. We struggle with so much, and we're already, there's so many insecurities and many things, whether it's food insecurity, trying to pay the bills. This is something that we don't want to feel guilty about. This is something that we don't want to, fight about. It's just something that women should have the right on many aspects of things. Birth control pills, insurance, paying for it. There's just so many things that women go through a lot. So it offends us when they're sorry to say it, but men out there that want to tell us how we should what we should do with our bodies, right? So I was very passionate. There was so many beautiful, passionate people there. And again, I respect everyone's right, but we need to keep fighting, because just because something is law in Jersey doesn't mean it can't change. And I think that's important. I think that's the message that we're trying, that every time we have to always be alert and pay attention to what's changing, because little changes one day will be the biggest change. Because then just one more little change makes it, you wake up and you go, how did that happen?
Right.
And we need to stay on top of it. We really need to stay on top of it. But it was important. It was also a beautiful day. So many women together from everywhere. It's nice to see that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for standing up for reproductive autonomy. That's so important. Such an important issue. So another question that I had, kind of similar, but in a different vein, representation is hugely significant. You've talked a lot about being Puerto Rican and being a Latina.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what your experience has been like in the public sector, and then as a civic leader, being a Latina, being a woman, what has your experience been like? What are some of the barriers? What are some of the challenges? What have been some things that have helped you with, in terms of your background, navigating these spaces?
So, it's very important. Representation is important. I think and I want to make sure that this comes out right, because it's not only important. And I'm, again, go back to Zimmer, very grateful that she put me on board, because I realized just how important it is to be involved and be a voice. But it's just not you. You have to educate the Latino community, and you also have to be present, and you have to show them that they have to do their part, because they'll never go. I don't particularly care for being it's important for representation, whether it's people of color, Latina, women, and then you can replace them as if they're in any aspect. If it's easy to replace them, because in numbers we need to grow, and I don't like that it's just certain numbers. And I remember discussing this in a session with women, and we were talking about. We don't want women to turn on each other. You're never going to get me as a Latina to go up against another Latina. That's not happening. I am going to embrace it and support a woman, especially any woman. It's support them. But there's just, sometimes it's like there's only one spot, right? And you and I realize that it's not statewide. It's like there's only one spot here, or one spot in this district, and one spot and when I remember, we were all discussing it, and I said we never should turn on each other, right? Because sometimes it's about survival too, right? So you it's all kumbaya one minute, and the next minute it's like, oh, who's trying to jock for my spot? And I was never that girl. If there's somebody out there that's going to step in, then fine, step in, because at the end of the day, it's the people that are going to judge you, right? Sure. So and you want to see women keep growing and Latinos, but I look at it as, well, forget that, just that spot, no worry, or you take this spot, let's get this spot too, and that spot, and that spot, so
bring the crew.
But we have a lot of work to do. We really have a lot of work. Representation is important. Just you want, but not only representation. I need to rephrase that, because you can have a person of color, a Latina, a woman, that you say representation is important, but if that person doesn't have their heart in it, then that's not representation. You know what I mean? So it's just not to somebody to hold a spot. It's to do the work, because then you realize, I didn't realize this until I was in it. how many people really look for you, especially in the Latino community. Like I always say I'm Spanglish, where I don't speak proper Spanish, so all that stuff, but people understand you in your community, and they just want to, they're so happy to see you. And I don't know who started this, but it's so true. That saying, that phrase, if you can see her, you can be her, is very, very important and true. So I think that's very important. Young people need to see that, across the board, whether it's young men, young women of different backgrounds, and it's just not Latino people of color. Any race, any place. It's just that they need to be involved, and we need to embrace that.
That sounds great. Yeah, you don't want it to be tokenistic.
No. Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned it earlier, and we talked about it previously the last time I talked to you. You talked about how your views on civic engagement have kind of changed over time. And you mentioned it, like how you grew up and some values that you learned at home, but your attitudes about voting. And I'm wondering what you want to share with young people in terms, if maybe they feel cynical or don't see a space for themselves.
I think especially again, in areas that, our people are struggling. I think we approach it. I know I have, looking back, I'm saying, okay, what could I have done differently? And this is another page that it's from Senator Stack when he goes out into the community. Why the community love him? Because of the work he does. I'm telling you that no matter what fundraiser he does, or when he addresses volunteers, or when he addresses a crowd, he's telling them what he does. He's listing the school's a great school. Look at the park. Look at he's listing that. It's reminding, because people forget, and it's a lot of work. It's not easy. It's easy to judge, but it's not easy to do the work of public service and people, all eyes on you, and criticism and all this. It's not easy. So you really have to engage, and I think that when you engage people, if you had to engage me, young Annette, that was rolling her eyes going, yeah, hurry up, get out of here. What do you want? I'm not doing it. Yeah. I would say that I have to now look at it and say, well, what is it that, what is it that you want out of life? Whether it's affordability for college, they may not say that because they're not thinking that, but how are you going to pay for college? And they'll go, oh no, that's an in. That's how you talk. This is how important it is. Who you elect in office can change all of this. We talk about the rent control, all of these things. It's who you elect in office and how things change our quality of life. And if I'm going to be talking to a senior about things, I'm not going to say the same thing that I'm going to talk to a young person. Sure. Because they may be thinking that this is corny, this is boring, lady, just, I don't want to hear it. It doesn't affect me. But you start saying things that does affect them. Their quality of life from a young person, what's important to them. So you really got to engage, and I think it's important. And there was something that I wanted to do that never took off because COVID kicked in, and then we just it kind of snowballed from there. But I always, and I might do this, just in general, just start doing this on my own, is to do legislative workshops. And I wanted to do that because, like I said, constituents come to you with a problem, but it's nice to engage, to just engage and talk to the community. And once you start something, it grows, right? Because they start saying, oh, this is a good topic. This is a good conversation. What's affecting us? What don't we like in a community? And we can go block by block, block by block. It's important because consistently being active. And I think that young people, and there's a lot of young people that are into it now, but I want to touch the young kids that are struggling because let me tell you something, you couldn't tell me anything. If I'm hungry, I don't have clothes to wear, there's domestic violence in my home, there is many serious things. Don't knock on my door to talk to me about voting, right? I'm looking at them yeah, okay, how are you going to change? But it's important to try to connect and read, know your audience, and just kind of get in, because with time, people will come to you, will talk to you. I mean, I've had many people tell me I need an apartment now, and I said, well, I wish this job came with a bag full of jobs and a bag full of apartments, but it doesn't. But it's not their fault because past maybe legislators or elected official had somehow connected them to, or they heard of it. So yeah, maybe 20 years or maybe that, but it's not something that an elected official should get involved in. Yes, you could call and say, hey, someone is concerned about the process, but you shouldn't really get involved. And I think you need to explain that because, or else they think you don't want to help them. Oh, but you'll help a friend. Like, it's that kind of thing, right? That kind of mentality, which is young Annette would have said the same thing, right? So I really want to, I think, who knows, maybe I'll start a civic association or something.
Great.
But I really want to engage everyone because, I mean, we have so many moms here. There's things that I'm sure that they want to see changes. Everyone has their own list of things they want in a community. But once we start talking about it, you'll be surprised how in many areas people want the same thing. So,
and I think especially for young people, they need someone to look up to.
yeah.
And I think they could find that in you. So I think that's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea. And I think also that sometimes they think when you tell a young person, what do you think should change? They're like surprised, like, oh, what do I think? Yes, they're our future, right? They're our future. So if you engage them in what can change and really maybe take an example of something that what they like in their, like, you know, I remember like even trying to engage, like my son will roll his eyes like, lady, I don't want to talk to you about no politics, no nothing. But I would say to him how important it is to vote or how important it is to make sure. And, you know, one of the things he loves doing is playing video. I go, what if we change something that will affect that?
Sure.
It can happen.
Right.
What if we do that? Yeah, he goes, you can't change that. I go, you don't know that. You don't know what changes can happen that would affect that or that would cost more or anything. So I try to take something, and that's the important part, to try to take something that will grab their attention, whether it's music, whether it's the arts, whether school, football games, whatever it is.
Make that personal connection.
Make that personal, because change does happen. And football is a great example because there are so many rules that kids will then go, wait, I didn't know we couldn't do that. Now why can't we do that? Well, something changed.
Right.
So it's
people
important.
advocating
Yeah.
for those things.
So it's
Right.
important that we getting it. So we have to find something that's common interest to them, not just what our platform is, but
Right.
what's common interest to them.
Yeah, that sounds really powerful. Really, really powerful. Now, one of the things I loved learning about you is that you were the honorary chair of Musica y Ritmos at the new Nimbus Art Center, you know, and especially we were right before Hispanic Heritage Month. You know, I wanted to talk about your connection to the arts.
Wow.
And how you got involved with that. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I would tell you that I think I can sing, but I cannot, so I won't do it. But I sing at City Hall every time.
Aww.
They tell me to shut up, but I won't. So I love, look, I'm Latina. Music is something that we just love. If I'm sad, if I'm happy, it just doesn't matter what my mood is. Music makes it better, right? Really, the whole point of that bill, where was the alcohol, serving alcohol in nonprofit theaters, these performing theaters, that's how I met Sam Potts from Nimbus. And he was, we connected, and very smart man. So he made me honorary chair for this production that they had, which was, of course, Latino music, and it was just beautiful. And I was so excited, and I learned so much. Again, I told you I'm Spanglish, so there's a lot of things that I've learned, and it was just great. And I formed such a really nice friendship with him. I actually was able to secure funding for him this year through the budget,
That's great.
because I really feel that the arts is important for many things. And if COVID taught us anything, it's just how important the arts are. And we need to think outside the box too. I always felt that mental health was a huge topic across the board, and somehow there's just so much of it, and there's so many organizations out there, but somehow we're still lacking. So I felt that if we had to think outside the box, look, there are many kids that need it. There's different type of mental health. Not everybody needs. It's not one size fits all. But there's a big demand for that. And sometimes you just want to vent. Sometimes and if there's a shortage of, psychologists or psychiatrists, then maybe perhaps we should connect something with the arts that will help.
It's very therapeutic. Right?
It is very therapeutic. And maybe you have some kind of skills you don't know. So it was very important, and we just started talking, and this is part of the reason why I tried to secure some funding from, which I did. I got them $250,000, which they're going to put into many programs that they have.
That's amazing.
And it is, and they really reach out to kids. They're in Jersey City. It's a really beautiful theater, just like Miles Square. It's just like we need to invest in that, because the outreach for the kids, for adults,
Yes,
for
helping young
senior
people.
It's just,
reach their potential.
It's beautiful. the arts is beautiful.
That's
So it's really, I'm not very talented in the arts, but I support it 1,000%.
That's great. Well, that's important advocacy.
Yeah, no, it really is. So I really love them. I mean, I was supposed to play Mama Cannoli during Christmas, but then COVID happened. I wasn't asked again. I'm just saying, Sam, if you're listening,
Right.
Mama Cannoli is coming back.
Oh my goodness. That sounds good. Aw, that's awesome. So we're actually on the cusp of Hispanic Heritage Month. It kicks off tomorrow.
Yes.
We're so grateful to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important. It's designated September 15th to October 15th. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Latino identity. There's a lot of robust conversations.
There really
about
is.
Latino identity, and it just, for you personally, growing up here, your parents migrated from Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you, and what are some of your favorite cultural expressions of Latino culture?
I've for the longest, I think that I felt a little insecure about, always proud of being a Latina, but that I did when I came into this role, that I didn't know enough. Like I met other Latino legislators, and they knew so much about the culture. And I grew up in the hood, and we had a lot of Latinos around us. We knew music, we knew food, we knew our dance. We were just passionate. And there's something about Latinos that doesn't matter how much you know, whether you're Spanglish, whether you're very fluent in Spanish, we just connect. There's this connection. And I remember the first time that I went to Puerto Rico, I was 40 years old for my very first time that I stepped foot in Puerto Rico. And it was emotional. I didn't think I was going to get emotional. I mean, I've never been on this island. Of course, heard so much about the island. And my mom took the three of us to Puerto Rico when we were much younger, and we were supposed to, and then the other three was going to go the next time. Well, next time never came, Mom. And we were just out. So it was just me and my brother Louie and my little brother Richie. We stayed behind with my father. We never got to see Puerto Rico. So at 40 I went. And it's just something about, it was just something about that island that really and truly, it's magical. It's Puerto Rico. You just, the plane starts to, they say, here you see the island. And I got so emotional about it. And I did go back during Hurricane Maria. We did like a rescue thing with Red Cross. I brought my son there, and it was the most beautiful thing. Sad but beautiful. People were lining up to get supplies, but there were also people that were coming back to bring us coffee or a piece of bread because they knew we were. It was just it's just beautiful. So there was a lot, but growing up as a Latina, there's so many different cultures, right? And we all say it's Hispanic Heritage Month. They're all together. But sometimes I feel like we need to also individualize the different, really not just lump us all in, really talk about our culture and because it's beautiful across the board. And we have different things. But food was, of course, a way of us. And it's just so funny. Growing up, I was like, oh, rice again, beans again. And as I got older, it was like such a comfort food. It's like, I'm like, oh, I can't wait that Spanish food. Where my mother used to say, what do you think, you're Italian? Because I always wanted pasta, But it's just these things as a kid, you grow up and you have these big dreams and this thing. And then you really have to embrace who you are, where you come from, get to know what you really are, who you really are, and what your roots are. To really be happy and go out there and, chase your dreams. But if you're not happy in here or really deal with the things that your struggles, I have many struggles and many things. There's a lot of insecurities. And I realize sometimes when you react a certain way and you say to yourself, oh, girl, where did that come from? Take it easy. You kind of regret doing or saying something. I realize, oh, that's a childhood thing. And I really had to embrace that. I really did. And like I said, this position really helped me navigate that and balance it to try to really do good stuff. You have to get your ego out of things and really connect and understand and try to do better.
Sounds good.
Give it Puerto Rico!
Well, there's a topic that I wanted to ask you about, that you're a mom to 3 sons.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have photo number 10. So we have a beautiful picture of, yeah.
It's an older picture. So yeah, we were having dinner at, I believe it was a chart house. But was it chart house or, well, it was in Weehawken. We were having dinner, and as you can see, they were very happy to take that picture. But I just,
They're all taller than you.
my 2 older boys on the right, they're much older. Like Nikki's, the one in the blue shirt, is at 14 years older than my youngest son Seth on the left, and then the middle one, he's 12 years older than Seth. So really, I'm a single mom. So they grew up with me, the 2, the 2 older ones. I say they grew up with me. I wasn't, I had a lot to learn. I was a young mother. I had them when I was 17 and 19. So, Seth, they always said Seth was spoiled.
Because he's the baby.
He's the baby. So he was spoiled. So yeah, because I had him, I was 32 when I had him. So, he didn't suffer the things they suffer, lights out. Why the lights are out? Oh, we're gonna play a game, things like that. Just a lot of struggles that so I always say there's this, closeness. My middle son, Johnny, he works for the Department of Defense. He was a Marine. So,
Thank you for his service.
Yeah. My oldest son worked at the hospital for a very long time. He was
You're at St. Mary's?
Yeah.
Oh,
actually, I'm going to be on the board for the hospital. So, yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be this month. They'll swear me in, I guess.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, that's kind of my giving back. And then my youngest son, he still lives with me, Seth. So these are my boys. It's tough being a mom of boys, right? Especially with the 2 older ones. Like I said, Seth was already a season. It's like, I'm a mom, and my older boys. I tell you right now, my older boys told their father that growing up they were scared of me, not him. Oh, there's so many jokes. There's just so many jokes. Like my oldest son would say, "Mom, I remember we used to go to Newport Mall, and you were just so angry at us, and we didn't do anything." And I go, "What are you talking about?" There would be like some kid acting up and like kicking their mother or something. Like, it was like a tantrum. And I'd be like, "Boy, if you ever, let me tell you, if you ever did that," like, it was like, just like, we didn't do anything. So they would just joke about things like that. But you, as a single mom, you just had to kind of love them to pieces, would always do anything for them. But I always had a rule with them was, because you know what, no matter how good of a parent you are or how much you try to stay involved with your kid, they could easily make a left turn and go down the wrong path. And sometimes it has nothing to do with your parenting skills, just the environment or just a choice they made and then they just couldn't come out of it. I lied a lot. I said, if you do drugs, you're going to die right there instantly. There's no coming out of it. They'll be like, yeah, right, Mom. Okay, right. But it was just things like that.
Wanted to protect
I
them.
wanted to protect them, but I also had to be strong. I had to be that parent that they fear. And I had a rule with them. Tell me the truth, no matter what, and I'll defend you to the end. But I don't want to go to school. I don't want to hear anything. And then they say, roll the tape. And there you are. And I look like a jerk, But these are all the things. But it was just, it's a lot of struggle. With the 2 older boys, they knew the struggles that we, paycheck to paycheck, trying to live, trying to make it. But it made us strong. So, but they're great boys. They just, Seth went to St. Peter's Prep. He did a year in William Patterson, and he went to community college. But he's trying to find his niche. College wasn't for him. He wants to do something, whether become a mechanic. And this is the stuff that we talked about, trade in Trenton. And we said we have to bring that back. First of all, we need it. We have a group of men that are getting older and are looking to young people and saying, hey, and these are great paying jobs.
Right.
Like, it's not like, this isn't minimum wage. It's a great paying job. So I think we have to bring that back into school and let kids make their own decisions. Some kids like working with their hands. They're not an office kind of person. So this is different things, different life experiences, and
And every profession is essential.
every
Yeah,
single
and it needs
one.
to be valued.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that. I address everyone in, you just don't address the people with the titles and the higher ups. You also, people that are cleaning the facilities. Every single person has to be recognized and have to be appreciated. And I treat everyone the same.
Yeah, amen.
Yes.
That's so important.
It is important.
That's so important. Well, they look so wonderful, and
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
I probably annoy them,
It's a
but
mutual pride that comes across here, and how close you all are. And
Yeah,
it's a
my
beautiful
boys.
family. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your
thank
kids
you.
with us.
Thank you.
Well, Assemblywoman Chaparro, I have one final question
Yes.
for you. As you're finishing your term, what do you hope is your legacy, for Hoboken?
So, if I had to answer that question, which I would say that I would hope that people would say that, my kindness and that I'm responsive, right? And if anything, she tried, right? But I don't like leaving it like that, because to me, my legacy means like, okay, that's it. This is, I did this, remember that. This pin doesn't, I feel like this pin doesn't represent who I am. I don't need this pin for me to continue to help the community. So I am looking forward to the future. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I'm looking forward to it. And I've always been that person. And the experience I've had, means that I can navigate the system. So I will never turn my back on my community. I will never turn my back on my people. I will always be there. So if somebody needs help or somebody wants it, I don't need the pin.
Right.
It's nice to have the pin, but I don't need the pin.
You don't need the title.
And I don't. And that's important. You have to show up. You have to stay humble and forget about the titles, because that only interferes with what your job is, which is serving the public.
Absolutely.
And so my legacy is that I hope that they remember me as an assemblywoman, being kind, responsive, and that I tried my hardest, and that I returned people's calls, and that's important, and that makes me feel good. I did secure funding for the community center, Hoboken Community Center here, for North Hudson Sewage Authority, for New Jersey, the NJCU. There is even, Nimbus, but even Cheer Dynamic. This is a group of cheerleaders, and I secure $100,000 for them, because these girls are always winning. They're like champions around the clock.
Pride of Hoboken.
Pride of Hoboken. These little girls are just raising money, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
So it was important for me to make sure that they had some funding. So there's many things, but yeah, kindness, responsive, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm still part of this community. So I'll be around.
And that's Civic organization up and running.
Yeah. Many things. Hoboken's 1 square mile. I grew up here. It's just like, how could I just stop at this, right? It's just it'll be a disservice. I'll be doing a disservice to myself and to my community. So more to come.
Awesome. That's what we like to hear. Well, we're so thankful to have had
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For
This was
being
fun.
with us. Thank you for sharing about your childhood, about your family, and everything, about your public service, and for being a strong role model for women.
Thank you.
For Latinos, for people of color. You have a beautiful heart.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving people in such an authentic manner.
I feel like I should have brought my maracas.
Yeah.
Sorry, my people. I didn't bring them. Next time.
I told her that I was listening to you. Soy boricua. Dance party.
Yeah, love it.
But we're so thankful. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. And I think I saw Jerry Lore also commented earlier. So we had some nice comments. Yeah. Very thankful to everyone. It's Rand Hoppy. Thank you for making it all happen. And to our director, Bob Foster. So this concludes this episode of Hoboken Talks. We are very excited in 2 weeks to host Barbara Reyes. And she serves as a commissioner on the Hoboken Housing Authority. And we're so excited to speak with her and all of her work that she does also in Southwest Hoboken, and supporting affordable housing. So we're really looking forward to that. It's a huge honor. And then after that, we have another colleague of Annette. We have Jimmy Farina coming. He will be interviewed by Stewie Chiricella. So we're really looking forward to that.
It's going to be fun.
That's going to be a dance party,
It's
too.
going to be a dance party.
So we're really grateful to have these two gentlemen be joining us. I think that's going to be a great episode. So we have a lot to look forward to. So we also want to thank our generous funders, including the New Jersey Historical Commission, the New Jersey Council for the Humanities, and then of course our Shipyard Circle. These are all include our trustees and our very generous donors. We can only do this work because of you. So thank you for your faith and thank you for your support so we can continue to do what we do in preserving Hoboken history and also elevating Hoboken culture. It's a big part of our mission. We want to thank Iron State for their support, especially with our space. It means so much to us to be able to host people here for exhibits, for programs like this. So thank you to Iron State. And if you haven't seen the exhibit, we have a very, very monumentally important exhibit called The Fires, Hoboken 1978 to 1982. It's been extended through the end of the year, through December 23rd. If you haven't seen it, we encourage you to see it. All about the early days of gentrification and the targeted arson against people of color, specifically, Latino people and Indian people with heritage. So it's really important that we preserve their stories and it's told from the point of view of the survivors. And so we're deeply honored to host that. In the upper gallery where we are right now, we have a wonderful visual art exhibit. It's the pen and ink drawings of Peter Fiordalisi. And he was from Hudson County and he passed away in Hoboken and he did beautiful drawings, especially of the environment. So you see patterns in the Palisades. So it's intersection of art and the environment. So we're super excited to have that. So thank you everyone for tuning in, for your comments, for your likes. We encourage you to share and subscribe for our future programming. And thank you to everyone who commented. And we look forward to seeing you soon and tuning in for more programming. And so we're signing off from the Hoboken Historical Museum. Thank you to Rand. Thank you, Assemblywoman Chaparro. Thank you to Hoboken. And yo soy Boricua. So thank you, everyone.